Hey filmmakers, so here we have the brand new Zhiyun Crane 2S, and you may be wondering, how on earth is this gimbal any different than all the other gimbals that Zhiyun currently offers, and how does it compare to other popular gimbals that are currently on the market? Well, we're going to be answering all those questions in this video, so let's get into it. So let's not waste any time. I'm going to be comparing this to the gimbals that came before it in the same family. So the Crane 2, the Crane V2, the Crane Plus, and another popular gimbal on the market, the Ronin S. So let's get to those standout features. The first one for me is that there's a nice OLED screen on the back, so I can see what shooting mode I'm in, and I can also dial through all the settings and get the gimbal set up exactly how I want it. If you're using something like the Ronin S, you know it doesn't have a screen, and the original Crane V2 and Crane Plus didn't have a screen either. It makes it so much easier to dial in and customize all your settings. And if you're used to using something like the Ronin S, you know you have to get into the app and connect it up, and it can be a little bit cumbersome to go through and change your settings, especially when you're running and gunning. This is really quick to do. Now, the biggest new feature of the Crane 2S is its ability to quickly switch into vertical video. So you can see that I have it all balanced to shoot vertical. Now, personally, I think that shooting vertical video is like one of the 7 deadly sins, but I have done it, and sometimes the client asks for it. And when you gotta do some gimbal footage, this is the quickest and easiest gimbal to do it on, because they've added a quick release plate to the side arm here. So you can just slide it off the bottom here and then slide it onto the side here and quickly start shooting vertical video. Now you do have to do some rebalancing before you can start shooting from horizontal to vertical, but it's definitely the quickest way right now to switch between the two. I've already obviously got this all perfectly balanced for vertical video, but I want to show you guys how long it takes to switch from vertical back to horizontal. All right, so 3.5 minutes. So obviously it's not the quickest change ever. It's not instantaneous, but it's not bad, and it doesn't require any tools to do. Everything is just done with a thumb screw and quick release plates, and then you're ready to go again with shooting horizontal video. So get it powered back on here, and boom, we're back to normal shooting mode. 16:9. So I know vertical video isn't for everyone, but I definitely think that's one of the coolest new features of the Crane 2S. Another standout feature for me are the axis locks. Now, they didn't have these on the original Crane 2 and V2, but they do have them on the Crane 3S and the Crane Weeble Lab. They make it so much easier to balance each of the axes individually. So you just lock them into place, and then you can focus on whatever axis you need to balance at that point and know that it's going to be perfectly balanced, and then you can unlock it and work on the other axis. And of course, the locks come in handy when you need to transport the gimbal and throw it into a backpack or the back seat of your car or something. You don't have to worry about all of the arms flinging around during transportation.
Behind your eyes, the way you're talking, it's a cheap disguise. We were made to chase the light, but you got saved on a moonless night. Get free tonight, set it all on fire.
Another new feature of the Crane 2S is that this back arm actually has an extension piece that can be removed, which I've already done. When you buy the gimbal, this piece comes attached and actually makes your motor sit much higher. Now the problem with that is that the motor will actually block the screen, so you can't see what you're doing without an external monitor. So I like to have this piece removed so that I can see my display easily. Now removing this little extension piece isn't the easiest thing in the world to do, and there are actually a ton of little screws you have to keep track of. Now once you remove all of them, you kind of have to pop it out, and then there's actually a connector cable that runs from the gimbal itself through the arm and then up into the motor. So you just have to be extra careful that you don't, yank that out and destroy your gimbal. There is a lot of extra slack in that connector cable, so you have to just kind of push it and force it into the arm and then get it all connected back up and screwed into place. Now that being said, I wish that Zhiyun would have included some instructions in their user manual on how to properly remove this and safely take it apart and put it back together, but there are no instructions and I couldn't find any online either. Another great feature of the Crane 2S is that everything is USB-C, which I absolutely love because it just makes everything standardized. So on the front here, you have two USB-C ports, and each of them are typically used for powering the focus motor, which I have here, and then you can also power a zoom motor if you want to use two of them at once. Or you can power the camera actually off of this front port as well. So I can plug this in and completely power the Fuji X-T4, which is really nice if you're running low on battery. And this camera is perfect for it because it has a USB-C in port and it's actually the right voltage and everything for making that work. It's not going to work with every single camera, but with this one it does. There is another USB-C port here on the back, and that's for camera control. You don't have to reach up and press the record button on the camera anymore because that'll add all that extra shake to your footage at the beginning and end of every clip. Instead, you can just press the giant red record button on the back of the gimbal. Now, a lot of gimbals offer this, but not all of them are compatible with every camera. So I'm gonna just click that, and then I can see right away the record button's blinking. It's blinking on the back here. And let's see if the tally light is going. Yep, the tally light is going. So it's recording and I never have to take my hands off, and then I can just click the record button on the gimbal and you'll see that it's stopped recording. In the box, they do include two other connector cables, a micro USB and a mini USB. So if your camera has those ports, you may be able to start and stop recording with it as well if it's compatible. Now, I will say the only downside of this setup is that this back USB-C port can only be used to control the camera, so start and stop recording. It doesn't actually power the camera. If I want to do that, I have to switch this USB-C cable to the front port, and then it'll start recharging the Fujifilm X-T4, but I lose control of the ability to start and stop recording. So you can see I hit the record button and nothing happens, but I am powering the camera. So you can really only do one or the other. You can't control the camera and power it at the same time. Now, while I'm on the topic of powering the camera and accessories, let's talk about the focus motor. So this is the Zhiyun focus motor, and I guess they call it like their 2.0 version. It's the latest one, and it's extremely easy to use and set up. I absolutely love how simple it is. So basically, you can just switch this little toggle right here, whether it's gonna be for focusing or zooming, and that basically controls how much power it uses and how quickly it operates. So I have it right now on focus because this is a manual focus lens from Rokinon, and then you simply calibrate it just by hitting the little calibrate button. You just hold it down for a few seconds, and as soon as it starts spinning, it's doing the calibration. Now, because the Rokinon lenses, the Cine DS ones anyways, have a hard stop on them, it'll automatically calibrate it and I don't have to do anything. It's all set up now. But you can also set up hard stops manually, and it has full explanation how to do that with the user manual that comes with the focus motor. Now, the focus motor isn't included when you buy it, but if you buy it in a combo, I think it's about 50 bucks if you buy the two together. So it's definitely worth it. Now, Zhiyun does offer another accessory that actually mounts directly to the bottom of the gimbal here, and it's a wireless transmitter. So if you want to send the video feed from your camera to like your smartphone or a tablet, you can definitely do that as well. Now, another new feature that's basically just aesthetic is the carbon fiber grip. I love the look of it. Of course, it cuts down on the weight a little bit, but for the most part, it just makes your crane look awesome. The battery life of the Crane 2S is 12 hours, which is really good and will definitely last you all day. Now, it's nothing crazy. Most gimbals right now are between 10 to 12 hours. Now, I do want to show you what batteries it's using and how you get to them. So basically, you just unscrew this, and then you can get to some basic standard 18650 batteries. So you can pick up additional batteries just like these on Amazon, and they're really cheap, and it just takes 3 of them. Now, of course, Zhiyun has upgraded all the motors on the Crane 2S so they can handle a heavier payload. So it can actually handle a camera that's up to 9.92 pounds, which is pretty significant. Honestly, most of the cameras that I work with are not that heavy. Now, if you need something that can handle an even heavier camera like a Red or a Sony FS7, then you can get something like the Crane 3S. That thing is an absolute beast for cinema cameras. So you do get a more powerful gimbal with the Crane 3S, but in my opinion, it's just a little bit more bulky. I know a lot of people really like that little arm that comes up in the back and it allows you to go into underslung mode really easily. But for me, I never really liked that. I thought it was a little bit clunky sticking out like that. I'm much more a fan of the single-handed grips like this. They pack down smaller, they're easier to throw into a bag, and they're just lighter and easier to use for me all day. And if I want to go into underslung mode, I can obviously just flip the camera around like this, and now I'm in underslung mode. So for me personally, I don't really see the need for that giant arm in the back. That's why I don't actually use the Crane 3S. But if you need something that can handle really heavy cameras, that might be a good option for you. So obviously the Crane 2S handles a camera like the Fujifilm X-T4 without any problem, and that's including a motor, and the camera is still in its cage. But how about something heavier like the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K with a cage on it and an external SSD? So I want to see how well this balances and how well the motors handle it. So let's get that set up now. And I also just want to see how long it takes to switch out between the two cameras. Here we go. So it took a minute to do, but I've got the Blackmagic Pocket 6K all balanced now on the Crane 2S, and it's doing a great job. No jitters or anything like that. I did notice that when I was first setting it up, I didn't have it perfectly balanced and the gimbal starts to freak out. And you just have to go in and fine tune, use those axis locks, and make sure that everything is balanced perfectly. Once you do, it's extremely smooth and the gimbal can handle it without any issues at all. Now, besides the new features that I mentioned on the Crane 2S, when you're actually out shooting with the gimbal, it's very smooth, the motors are powerful, and there's really no issues with it. It performs just as expected. I guess what I'm saying is it's not like, oh my gosh, the smoothness of this gimbal is just beyond everything else in the world and everything like that. No, I'd say the Ronin S and other gimbals like the AK4000, the original Crane V2, and those sort of gimbals are definitely all really smooth, and you don't really see a difference in the overall footage. It's the other parts that really come into play here, like the additional features and the ability to handle larger cameras and get them balanced and everything like that, that come into play more than the smoothness. The smoothness of this gimbal is fantastic, just as you see on many other gimbals. In my opinion, there are not a lot of downsides to the Crane 2S. I actually really love this gimbal, and I think they just about nailed everything. The Crane 2S is 4.63 pounds before you add a camera to it. So it's actually about a half a pound heavier than the Ronin S. So if you already think the Ronin S is too heavy of a gimbal, then this is definitely a little bit heavier. But for me personally, I'm used to the weight of the Ronin S, and I'm used to the weight of cameras that are fully rigged out with other accessories and monitors and things like that. So the weight of this gimbal doesn't actually bother me. If you're in the market for a new gimbal right now and you're looking for something that's single grip, I definitely think that the Crane 2S is the way to go, especially over something like the Ronin S. I would pick this hands down every time. Now, I do want to say a special thanks to Zhiyun for setting this gimbal out for review, but they did not pay me to say any of this or see this video before posting it. So these are all the opinions of my own. And guys, if you want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe right now, because I have a ton more videos coming out in shooting, editing, lighting, gear reviews, everything like that, and you don't want to miss it. All right, I'll see you in the next video.